Hey, Ben.
I like it. Hi.
You well?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. I'll take the screen off for you here.
That'd be quite funny to start with that. We're not live yet. I was waiting until we got the Zoom site sorted. How are you?
Really well, thank you. Really
Uh,
well. Where are
I've
you
just
where are you based out of?
Scotland,
Whereabouts?
just north of Edinburgh.
Okay.
Have you
My
visited?
I have not yet, but my namesake is from there. And I was split Irish Catholic or Irish and Scottish.
Okay.
And my Scottish grandparents were just kind of very humble and didn't tell me to keep going to Scotland. But my Irish grandmother, when she was dying, said, "Don't tell anyone, but Scotland is more beautiful than Ireland."
I agree. I've not been to Ireland, but yeah.
Not been to Ireland. Wow.
No, not yet. No, it's strange. Like I've not done as much traveling as I would like. I've been to Europe all around and America and Canada and things, but I've not been to it's at my doorstep, if you know what I mean. So you tend to not go and see things at your doorstep.
It's
Uh,
true.
it's strange.
Yeah. No, very true. Well, thanks
Let
for
me
doing
just get
this. I
this
appreciate
over on Facebook so we can begin.
it. Okay.
Uh, mm, I think it'd be quite funny if you put your mask on.
All right. I will do it for you.
Yeah. I'll tell you when we go live. I'll need to figure out how you'll need to show me how to do that as well.
Yeah, it's the new version of Zoom in the background and filters. If you look at video filters.
Right, okay.
So just tell me a little bit about your audience when you're set up too, just so we know exactly who I'm speaking with.
Yeah. The podcast is called Ben's Business Podcast. They are interested in books. Primarily, a big part of my audience is very interested in business books.
Okay.
So, perfect audience for you, I would say, because the majority of your books are business orientated. From what
They
I've read.
all are, yeah.
Yeah. That's the main part. I run a web design and marketing agency, and got some clients that watch my videos, and I do a wee bit of coaching on what I've learned up to date on business, but primarily my business is still doing marketing as a service for so still a fairly small business, and I've not got my own assistant and things yet. So there will be a couple of questions I personally have for you.
That's
That
great. Those always those always go well when you ask personal questions about your business, and I can help as well.
yeah, yeah. So that's the plan. I'll just get this. So this is episode 100, actually.
Wow, awesome.
Is that enough about my audience? Do you need to know more?
Yeah.
Or
Nope, that's good. That's all I needed. Thank you.
I'm not a multitasker. Okay. I'm just clicking to go live, so it should work. I'll share this into a book club as well. It's got a Facebook group of 1,700 members.
Sounds great.
I'll get that shared in there. Okay, so that's us live. As you can see, Cameron has his face mask on for safety.
Gotta keep everybody safe today, Ben. It's got to be a better look with a face mask than something like this, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is not really as strong.
Yeah, I'll need to figure out how to put them on. You were teaching me how to do that while I was multitasking and getting us on live, but
It's a new Zoom background and filter section. Once you do the update on Zoom, you'll be able to do it.
yeah. Okay, so welcome everyone to Ben's Business Podcast. This is episode 100. I'm here with Cameron Herold, and how I discovered you, Cameron, is through this book here, Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs.
Sure.
Co-authored with Hal Elrod. I'm getting your names mixed up. Your second names are quite similar.
Quite similar, aren't they? Yeah, Elrod and Herold are quite similar.
So that's how I discovered you. I went through the book on audio, and then I did a mini book club around it as well, because there was a lot of actionable tasks to do from the book. So it gave me some things to do and apply it to my Miracle Morning and my business. And awesome. I realized through going through that book how you did it, and it was I believe the book was a great promotion for you as well, Cameron, just to hear what you had to say in a large part, and the sort of practical steps that you teach in your books in general. So I went on to download the Vivid Vision because I liked that idea in the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs in the last couple of chapters. That was really powerful for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Hal and I had both invested in our own growth. We joined a mastermind group called the Genius Network. And then we were also in another mastermind group that was called Mastermind Talks. And we kept bumping into each other at these events. And one day he came up to me, and his Miracle Morning had really taken off. And he asked me if I would co-author the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs with him. And I just said, sure. Yeah. I'd already written, I think I'd written 2 books at that point, and I'd written 3 books at that point. So his was my 4th. And yeah, it's taken off. It's been a really great success.
Yeah. So the opportunity to write the book just happened sort of through being around each other and chatting.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I've learned about mastermind groups is that when you invest in yourself and you invest in your own growth, I call it ideas having sex. You end up meeting with these random people from random other industries, and you take bits and pieces of what they do and they form into something bigger. You know, I launched something called the COO Alliance, which is the only network of its kind in the world for the second in command. And that was really, again, by being a part of all these mastermind groups, I realized there was no mastermind group only for COOs, right? We had, lots of other things. I learned about podcasting. I started the Second in Command podcast because I was in a mastermind group. So a lot of my business ideas have really come from being around other business owners.
Yeah, I agree with that. Not on a scale that you've done so far, but a lot of the ideas and business ventures and startups that I've moved into have come from just chatting with other entrepreneurs and like-minded people and starting something from scratch with them.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been smart enough to figure everything out on my own, but the really smart people have figured it out. So if I just do what they're doing, it goes faster. And that's really what I've tried to do, is codify all of my successes and everything I've done to build all the companies I've built. I've just, because I was also building franchise companies, most of the businesses I've built ended up being big franchise groups. And you have to teach franchisees how to execute every single aspect of their business. So you give them very simple step-by-step instructions. So that tends to be how I think, is giving people the step-by-step instructions that are simple and scalable. And that's really how I guess all 5 of my books ended up as successful as they are.
Yeah, that's what the one thing I really liked about your books is it stood out to me in the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. It was recommended to me from a friend, and I'd read the Miracle Morning, but it was very different from the original, and I guess we just got like a flavor of how you think and how you teach in that practical sense, and that really stood out for me amongst all the other business books that I've read.
It's interesting considering that people who are listening today or watching today are really into books and certainly into business books. I've got a recommendation for them that is maybe a little bit counterintuitive. I'd like them to read less books,
Yeah.
and I would like them to read books that are really tied to projects they're working on this quarter. So as an example, I'm launching a course next month. So I'm launching a leadership course. All the modules are filmed, all the content is ready, the written work is done, the pre-tests are being built, but I don't know how to launch a course. So all of my reading, all of my learning right now is about launching a course.
Yeah.
And if I read about launching a course 2 years ago because it was some random book, it wouldn't have been as applicable. So I'm much more in tune and devouring the content much more. So I think for anybody who's reading business books today, think about the business that you're building this year. What are the core goals you have for the year? What are the core projects that you're going to do to make those goals happen? And then read books that are associated or tied to those projects, right? If you know that you want to have better meetings, read Meetings Suck. But if your meetings are already good, don't bother reading Meetings Suck just because somebody told you it's an amazing book, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, I have somebody who was like, oh, I'm going to read your book, Free PR. I'm like, do you have any focus on landing free press this year? No, but I heard it's a good book. No, you'll end up causing yourself more stress and adding a bunch of random stuff to your to-do list.
Yeah.
So yeah, really read. And even my first book, Double Double, I tell people don't read it front to back. Don't read it like it's not a novel. You don't have to read it like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Read chapter 1, read chapter 6, read chapter 2, read chapter 12. You know, read, but hop around chapter by chapter based on what's going to help you the most right now.
Yeah. Yes. Someone calls that just-in-time learning, so that you're taking action and then picking up the book to overcome the hurdle. Yeah, I totally agree.
Right. And one of my other coaching clients will read the same book 3 to 4 times over 3 years because
Yeah.
he realizes that once he learns the information, he works on some of it, but then he goes back and relearns it again. And it's starting to kick in you kind of go from the abstract conceptualization to the active experimentation to the concrete experience to reflective observation. When you go back and read it again and read it again, you learn more, you learn more, you
Yeah.
learn more. So, you know, if you know a book, a business book is really great, don't read it once, read it multiple times.
Yeah. And I think you're right about that. A lot of readers' mindsets, including myself a couple of years ago, was just how many books can I read in a year, and just cramming lots of information in that's not useful for the present tasks.
Well, think about all the learning that we did in grade school and high school, all the things that we had to memorize and learn that we've never used. But
Yeah.
if we studied one thing over and over and over and over again, we build a lot of confidence in that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's why kids who got really good at guitar, like, how did you do that? Well, they just did it and they focused on it for a long period of time, and all of a sudden they got good at it. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got a couple of specific questions for you today. I asked a few people, the book club that I was kind of going around over your book on, one of my friends who were in it, question,
Sure.
asked to submit a question, and that was just, you've got a book on how to vision, or the vivid vision, and
Yeah.
for business and for personal life. What is your why, and what is your sort of purpose and cause, your personal one, for everything that you're doing today?
Mine has been the same core purpose, and it's interesting you talk about the why. Simon Sinek, who popularized the concept of start with why, Simon was on our board of directors at 1-800-GOT-JUNK when I was the COO.
All right.
4 or 5 years before he wrote his book Start with Why. He
Yeah.
was running a marketing agency in New York, and he flew out to Vancouver to meet Brian and I because he'd read about us in Fortune magazine. We hired Simon. He spoke at our conferences. We put him on our board, and he started explaining this why concept. And he actually helped me write my why. So my core purpose is to help entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. I've always loved helping entrepreneurs make their vivid visions or their dreams come true. And that goes all the way back to 1989 when I first started coaching entrepreneurs. I've been coaching entrepreneurs since before coaching was a thing, right? Coaching really only became popular 15 years ago. I started coaching real companies 31 years ago. I'd coached 120 entrepreneurs by 1994. So that my drive towards helping entrepreneurs is my core purpose. And that's why my coaching helps them. My COO Alliance helps them. My 5 books help them. My Second in Command podcast helps them. My speaking events help them. It's all driving towards helping entrepreneurs. So I don't do any work with government. I don't do work with nonprofits. I don't do work with kids, right? It's just entrepreneurs is my only niche.
Okay, to dig deeper into that as well, because it was like a two-step question, and I think it was a good question. So, if it's to help entrepreneurs, and why entrepreneurs, and why do you want to help them?
So I was groomed as an entrepreneur. When I was a child, my dad trained my brother and sister and I to all be entrepreneurs. And for the last 20 to 25 years, all 3 of us have run our own company. So my dad ran his own business. Both my grandparents ran their own companies. So that's all I ever knew.
Right.
I didn't understand going to get a job or being a doctor or a lawyer. Those were always very kind of strange concepts. I didn't understand that, and too much school. So entrepreneurship was just what we did. And then I was an entrepreneur at 21. I had 12 full-time employees when I was in second year university, and I was running my own business. And so I saw the struggles. And when I started coaching entrepreneurs, I started seeing that they were like a fly trying to get at a window. They were going to work hard. And I was like, but there's a path, is a door right here. Just turn and go out the door and you're free.
Mhm.
And I realized that sometimes they didn't know that there was an easier way. And when I showed them the easier way, they were really thankful and they were really successful. And it felt good. So
Yeah,
it's just always, I've just been hardwired that way.
yeah, yeah. So
When you get into the big corporate world, they know how. They've got the hired people, they've got all the MBAs, they've got all their systems and stuff. But when the person is there, the guy or the woman is there building the business, and they've got 5 employees, 10 employees, 50 employees. Usually when you get to the 30 to 50 employee range, that's my zone. And I can really help you go from 30 to 50 to 500.
right, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. So you're the deep part of it is just because you identify with them, and um
And
you're
I've felt their pain, right?
yeah,
I've been an entrepreneur. Even when I joined 1-800-GOT-JUNK, when I came in as the second in command, it's now a $450 million company. But when I joined, there were only 14 people there, right? I was the 14th employee at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. When I left 6.5 years later, we had 3,100 employees system wide, right?
yeah,
And I took them from 2 million to 106 million. So that's my zone. I wouldn't be a good employee at 1-800-GOT-JUNK today, right? As a $450 million business, they move differently. They make decisions differently. They deal with politics and cross-functional decision making and matrices and all that. Right? I'm really good in that entrepreneur zone of the 50 to 500 people.
the growth part, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and I'm not very good at the early stage to figure out what to do, because to me it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether what matters is, will we execute, right? It's all around focus,
yeah,
faith, and effort. It's not about whether the idea is good or not. I told the founder of Uber 6 months before he hired Travis Selnick to be CEO. I told the founder, Garrett Camp, that Uber was a stupid idea, right? I don't know whether something's a good idea. I can just teach
okay,
you how to build it.
yeah, right, okay. So in terms of like taking 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and you were the COO, which for people who don't know what that stands for is Chief Operating Officer, and you basically take the role of the founder, the CEO, off of their hands and operate everything, do all the managerial tasks of all the different departments. Is that right?
Yeah, the CEO really points the direction and says, here's where we're going. And then I say, here's how we're going to get there.
Yeah.
So I ran operations, the call center, PR, sales, marketing, the product development, um, and our kind of MIS and analytics departments. He ran IT and finance. So IT and finance reported to Brian, everything else reported to me. And then I also understood how to franchise a company And then I also did a lot of the speaking events for the company and media interviews for the company, as did he, but we provided very different faces to the media and speaking, and really were a spectacular team together.
Yeah. Yeah, and I read in the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs as well that one of the things you did that made that team work so good is, I think you said you met up every day. Was that right?
Well, we sat beside each other, and then for a period of time, we didn't have desks. We would just sit at other people's desks in the office. You know, we had about 200 employees, and I just wanted to be more connected with everybody, so I would just go and sit with them. But we met every Tuesday morning and every Thursday morning to go for a run together.
Yeah.
Every Friday from around 8 o'clock until 11 o'clock, we went off site and worked at a tennis club together, just sat with our laptops and did work. So we had a lot of time where we would just be together and connect together.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we had our normal meeting rhythms as well. We had our leadership team meetings and our one-on-one meetings and our daily huddles and, you know, the finance meetings. We had a really strong meeting cadence that we just stuck to.
Yeah. Okay.
I wrote an entire book about our meeting cadence called Meetings Suck, which people
Yeah.
have been complaining about meetings for so long, but they don't know how to run a good meeting. So
Right.
I tried to write it on not only how to run meetings, but how to attend them and participate in
Okay.
meetings as an employee too.
Yeah. So if you were to summarize what creates a good meeting, what would that be?
I'll give you the kind of the core architecture of them is every meeting has to have a clear purpose, just the one sentence, why are we showing up? Every meeting can have a maximum of 3 outputs. What are the 3 big things you're going to get done? Every meeting has to have an agenda. So what are you covering? In what order are you covering? And how many minutes will you spend on each agenda item? And what communication style will you have on each agenda item? Every meeting has to start on time. So if you say it's 8 o'clock, start at 8. If you say it's 9, start at 9. Don't wait for people. You have to codify and get people to understand when they show up saying, sorry, I'm late. What they're really saying is, F you, I'm disrespectful. My time is more valuable. And then you finish every meeting 5 minutes prior to the scheduled ending time. So if you schedule a meeting from 7 o'clock until 8 o'clock, you finish at 7:55. That gives everybody time to walk down the hall, talk to their assistant, get a cup of coffee, go to the bathroom, and start their next video call or meeting or phone call exactly on time.
Right.
Those are kind of the basics. And the other one is I have people check their phone or turn off their phone at the door, and they don't sit in the meeting checking their email and checking their phone. If they're too busy, we tell them to leave the meeting and go do their other work. But we treat it like you're an Olympic athlete. You would never see an Olympic athlete in a swimming race looking at their phone. You would never see them running down the track checking their phone. Like they'll do that later, right?
Yeah.
So we really have people focus on one task at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
including the CEO, who often tries to say, well, I'm too busy. Well, then fucking go do your other work, because it's distracting everybody. So
yeah.
Even when Elon Musk, I've known Elon for 25 years. He did a tweet about a year ago and said, you know, if you're in a shitty meeting, stand up and leave the meeting. And I sent him a text message. I'm like, no, fix the meeting. If you fix the root cause, your employees won't be in the shitty meetings to leave. Right. But if you don't fix the shitty meetings, then yeah, of course you're in a shitty meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. So so you just move on without someone. If someone's late, do they get into the meeting, or do they just have to come in late?
If it happens over and over again, they're not going to get in the front door of the company.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you know, my core values, if I think back to some of the businesses I built, where, you know, deliver what you promise, respect the individual, pride in all you do. Showing up late for a meeting, you're breaking 3 out of the 3 core values.
Yeah.
Right? It just doesn't fly. So you have to I always go back to, first off, why are they missing, or why are they showing up late, right? Is it because every meeting is back to back? Well, then teach them to finish every meeting 5 minutes early, right? Teach them how to plan, teach them how to schedule their time, teach them how to say no to a customer and say, I got to get off a call.
Yeah.
You know, teach them about conflict management. So if they're late, you show up and you go, look, this can't keep happening, and then go back to the core values. You know what my core values for my company today: deliver what you promise, be open and vulnerable, show respect for everyone, grow big, act small, and have some effing fun. So showing up late for a meeting, you're breaking 2 of those core values. You're breaking, deliver what you promise. You're breaking, show respect for everyone.
Yeah.
So when
I'm interested in hearing about that part, the value about fun. How do you incorporate, or is that your responsibility? Do you incorporate the fun and emphasize that into the community?
I think it's everybody's responsibility, and you just kind of have to remind people every once in a while that you can do some silly stuff to have fun, right? Like you can throw a mask on for a Zoom meeting, or you can just sit and like you can just laugh a little bit and remember that none of this actually matters, right?
Yeah,
Like at the end of the day, this is just what we do to make money, to give ourselves a life and the things that we want before we die. And then we're gonna die.
Yeah.
Right?
That's I'm aligned with that philosophy. Just when you look out at like what the life is actually about, it's a lot of the stuff we're doing is unessential, really.
It's all unessential. None of this fucking matters because we're all gonna die. Like, so if we can't have some fun along the way, I don't really want to be doing it. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to. I want to work with people that are focused and driven, but can also laugh a little bit along the way.
Yeah, that's a big core value of mine, is the fun part, because I would say one part of my life I got too carried away in serious sort of business mode, and that was a big mistake, and I got out of that. I don't know if it was just my influences and trying to change so much, and I got carried away with that and lost connection with that fun side of me as well.
Well, you're Scottish, but you would know the saying that the Irish use, that you want to take the mick out of somebody, right? Is that an Irish saying or a Scottish saying?
Say it again.
When I think the Irish say they'll take the mick out of you.
Yeah.
That's like they're just poking fun at you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's my roommate in university was Irish, but his best friend was Scottish. So one was a McDonald and the other one was a McCowell. And like, so we had the Micmacs, and they would always say, I'm just taking the mick out of you. And I was like, oh, that's such a fun saying. But we just have to bring that stuff into our work more.
Yeah. Like, we use that saying often, take the mick out of you, and we I guess that's embedded in Scottish, because you get the mick taken out of you a lot in Scotland. I guess it's a culture thing. So, and a couple other questions that came up was, you have a couple of book titles, and I've not read through them all, if I'm completely honest, but the part, one of them that I found interesting was free PR. Have you got any tips on? Obviously, you've got a whole book on it, so probably.
Yeah, I'll give you. Let me give you kind of the basics of free PR. So, when I was running my very first business, I was trained in 1986 on how to go out and generate free press coverage by just picking up the phone and calling a newspaper. So I thought, what the hell? I'll give the newspaper a call, and I called a writer. And I said, I've got a good story for you. Do you have 2 minutes? And he said, sure. And I told him the story, and he goes, that sounds interesting. I said, I'm at a job right now. If you want to come over, you could take a picture of us and we could do a story. And he goes, okay, I'll be there in a half an hour. And I got off the phone and I went, shit, that was so easy. I'm only 21 years old and I've got a newspaper guy coming to photo me. It ended up on the front page of the newspaper, and it was a story. And so then I called the TV station and they did a show, and I was like, God, this is so simple. So I realized that every morning, every journalist, every blogger, every podcaster, every TV personality are sitting down at their desk thinking, what the heck am I going to write about today?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, we're episode 100. But if somebody would pick up the phone and call you and say, and your phone never rings, you get 100 emails a day, but you get 4 phone calls. If you had a phone message and it was like, hey, Ben, we haven't met yet, but my name is Cameron. I think I've got a good host or a guest for your podcast. Give me a call back. You'll be like, fuck, I got to call him, because you want to know right? So now I got you on the line. I understand your show well enough. So I go, here's a guy who runs a company called Scribe. He's all about helping authors have books. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I could have Tucker Max as a guest. Done deal.
Right.
So when we went to 1-800-GOT-JUNK, I brought that same idea in, and we landed 5,200 stories about our company in 6 years.
Right. And
5,000. That included being on Oprah,
right.
17 times on Dr. Phil, Fortune magazine, and the print editions. Like I've been in the physical print edition of Forbes, Fortune, Inc., Success, Entrepreneur, American Airlines magazine, not only the websites, but also in the actual magazines. So in the book Free PR, I just teach people how to get the press. And then the second part is to think that every press article is just like a log that you're putting on the fire. If I got 5 articles about me, it's really just 5 logs, but those logs are just sitting there.
Yeah.
I need to light them on fire. So I share the story on my website, on my press page. And if you went to CameronHerold.com, went to the media page, or you went to the COAlliance.com or the media page, you'd see hundreds of articles about me. So all of those links are coming back to my website, which drives up SEO. And then I share those links on Facebook 3 times in a year. I share them on LinkedIn 3 times in a year. I share them on Twitter 5 times. I email them out to my list once a quarter. I email them to the speakers bureau. So I'm kind of lighting the press on fire, right?
Yeah.
And then what I thought was, well, if I have all these logs and they're all on fire, how do I pour gas on them? Well, you buy traffic, so that all of your prospects are seeing that media and they go, wow, you're really famous. But they didn't just stumble on the article. I pushed the article in front of them.
Yeah.
So that's why I wrote the book Free PR, was to teach people, because I've been teaching my clients this globally for 25 years, is teaching every entrepreneur how to go out and generate free press for themselves.
Yeah. So I guess a lot of your book ideas have come from being out in the real world, doing the business, finding out these little, like picking up the phone that first time and finding a little hack that worked, and then just you've used it so many times yourself, you start teaching it, and it builds into a whole.
Yeah, I'm not a big thinker. I don't sit and go,
yeah,
how could I do something like that? That's not
yeah,
my mind. I'm all about experience and what works. And when I notice what works, those patterns, that's how I can franchise things, because I can teach them in very simple ways that everybody can execute.
yeah,
When I taught how to generate press to our franchisees, I had to get 330 franchisees all being able to pick up the phone in their local market to talk to their local journalists to get press coverage. That's how we got 5,200 stories.
yeah.
Right.
I have another question that's kind of brought up as well, what you just said. And that it makes me think that the way I work, and maybe this is the same for a lot of entrepreneurs, still, again, with my audience, a lot still at the beginning, even behind that 14 employees first step that you were kind of, let's say you had your father who nurtured you into that and helped. There's some people who didn't have that, and they're starting with none of that background or mentorship or help. So I feel like my personality, why I'm drawn towards you and your writing style, is because I'm more of a thinker, I'm more of a creator. Maybe I would fall into CEO rather than COO, because I'm not always. I've learned the best thing for me is not always doing the stuff, but delegating it. And that brings me on to the question of like hiring. And I've got a full-time web developer who works with me. I have a video editor who does some of the little tasks, but that seems to be, I think that's my next step. This is my personal question, but I think it probably relate to a lot of people who are just starting out in business or are quite far into business, but don't seem to hit a ceiling with what they can do with their time. And at that pivotal point of hiring the right person the first time, for example, you said in the Miracle Morning, if you've not got an assistant, you are one. And I definitely feel like that. Like I would have liked to have someone organize this Zoom call for me and do like little tasks, and that would be great. But in terms of like hiring someone even part-time, I always I'm not sure financially if it's going to be that worth it. Do you recommend, for example, when you're looking for talent, and even in when you were starting out, did you see it was better to pay more and it be tight with the business budget, or to minimize that risk and hire only when you were well in profit?
Yeah, you got a lot of good questions there. So I think the to bring it back to what the core is,
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur or when you're a startup person, let's say it's just you, as soon as you start working 40 hours a week in your business, you're working too much in the business.
Okay.
And you need to find a bunch of tasks that you do that are minimum wage job tasks.
Yeah.
You know, a bunch of $15 an hour tasks. So if you made a list, let's say that you're watching right now and you pretended that someone followed you around for with a video camera for a month, and they videoed you 40 hours a week running your business, and you wrote down everything you saw yourself doing on the video camera. So I would open up a spreadsheet and in column A, I'd write every single task that I do. I open emails, I read emails, I reply to emails, I book meetings, I organize podcasts, I edit podcasts, all those things, 80, 90, 100 things. Column B, I'm going to put a letter, either I for incompetent, meaning I suck at it,
Yeah.
C for competent, meaning I'm okay at it, E for excellent, meaning I'm really, really good at it, or U for unique ability, meaning I'm so good at it that I would do it for free, and I get energized doing it and I love doing it,
Yeah.
right? And then I would then in column C, I would put a dollar value for every task. If someone just did that task day in and day out all year, you know, if they were the mail delivery person,
Yeah.
what would you pay them? If their job was to clean toilets, what would you pay them? If their job was to reply to emails, what would you pay them? If their job was to sell, what would you pay them? Right?
Yeah.
And you come up with an hourly rate for everything. And then you look to delegate everything off your plate that you're incompetent or competent, right? You want to get everything off your plate that you suck at or you're only okay
Yeah.
at because it's probably draining you of energy. And then, you know, what do you bill out your time at? So what does your marketing agency, what's your marketing agency's hourly rate or a billable rate? Do you have a rate for
Uh, we, in terms of consultancy, it's around 150 per hour.
that? Okay.
And web design, we have some packages, and marketing, again, there's different packages for what they're looking for. So we have an hourly rate for consultancy, but there's different packages for each web design. So a website would be in pounds, on average about £2,000.
Okay. So how many dollars an hour roughly would it be to build a website? 50?
Yeah.
Okay. So your website work is about $50 an hour. Your consulting work is about $150 an hour. Any job that you do that is a $15 an hour job is beneath you.
Okay.
What you should do is get 30% of your hours off your plate so that you can do more consulting work at $150 an hour.
Yeah.
Or so that you can go find more consulting work.
Yeah.
Every hour that you spend doing minimum wage work, you're not spending that time finding high-end billable work,
Yeah.
right? Like if I have an hour free and I just connect on social media with a bunch of CEOs, I land $30,000 speaking events. So
Right.
why am I doing $20 tasks when people pay, or a
Yeah.
podcast interview? Like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So that's the way you have to think as the entrepreneur is you delegate everything except genius, and you delegate everything below your effective hourly rate.
Yeah. 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 I read some of that in the Miracle Morning book as well about delegating everything but your genius. And that was kind of, I guess, where the question came from.
Yeah, because and so like, you know, for me as an example, like I just came off 25 weeks vacation or 25 days off. So I took 3.5 weeks off. I never checked my email for 3.5 weeks. I did no client calls. My assistant handled everything. My team handled everything. I came back refreshed,
Yeah.
recharged, ready to go. And then even, you know, I don't work every other Friday. I take off, but it recharges my battery so that I can show up, you know, for exactly what I need to be doing.
Yeah.
In fact, the more that I can figure out who I can delegate to, the faster my business grows.
Mm. Yeah. Okay.
And I think what happens for a lot of entrepreneurs is we know we can do it, so we just work harder doing the task. But then we end up doing all these tasks that are draining us of energy.
Yeah.
The stuff that gives me energy is speaking, media interviews, and coaching. I love doing these. These are fun. This
Yeah.
doesn't feel like work to me.
Yeah.
but but I have to do a landing page for my course. Oh, it's going to kill me. So I was thinking about it this morning. I'm like, no, I don't have to do a landing page for my course. Someone has to do a great landing page for my course. And then I thought in my head of what my revenue is going to be for the course. I'm like, I should go pay somebody some good money to do a proper landing page because my course is going to pay for that anyway. And if I pay somebody who's really good, who loves doing it, and I can go do more media interviews,
Yeah.
it's win-win.
And that's probably that. I'm assuming that mindset comes from this. Like, I've yet to do, I think, a 4-hour session of the Vivid Vision yet, because I'm only just getting into the book. But I guess like that mindset comes from the vision, how much, what your targets are, and then knowing that you can delegate it with a clear picture.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I know for sure as an example, I know for sure, well, it doesn't, I don't think the numbers, I think you understand the concept. The key is to identify the stuff that drains you of energy and is beneath your effective hourly rate and delegate those things.
Yes.
Here's something else that everyone listening can remember. If you're in a consulting type of business where you bill for your time, you're only ever going to be able to bill for about 30% of your time. About 30% of your time you're going to be doing work for the business that nobody's paying you to do. Your accounting, your paperwork, your booking of meetings, all your admin work, client work that's unbillable. So about 30% of your time you can bill for, about 30% of your time is unbillable. And the last 30 of your time is going to be sales and marketing to find work that you can get paid for. So really you're only getting paid for 1/3 of your hours. So when you think that, if you know that you want to make $100,000 this year, let's say you want to do $100,000 in revenue, but you're only getting paid for 1/3 of your hours. Well, you need to do $50 an hour at 40 hours a week times 50 weeks a year gives you 100,000. But if you're only getting paid for 1/3 of the hours, you need to bill $150 an hour because you're only going to get paid 13 hours a week times 52 weeks a year to give you the 100,000. So
Yeah.
most people aren't billing enough. So they end up at the year going, wow, I only made 30 grand. Well, you only billed $50 an hour. You
Yeah.
can only work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 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 A ceiling. Yeah.
You have to bill for at least 3 times what your effective hourly rate would be if someone was paying you all day long.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, this is recorded, so myself and anyone else listening can go over that again. So, okay. I like the idea of getting 30% off my plate. That would help me for sure.
You know, the book that you should go to first right now is my very first book, Double Double. And I would read the chapters 1, 2, 4, 6, and 12.
Okay.
Every entrepreneur should read those 5 chapters of Double Double. And buy the hard copy or the paperback version so that you can scribble notes in it.
Yeah.
It's good. It's fine to listen to the audio as well. But I find that for me, my books especially are written more like an operating manual.
Definitely. Yeah.
You really want to have the notes because you're going to pull
Yeah.
it back out, right, to see how
Yeah.
to do stuff.
Yeah. And that's what I did with your book with Hal. I tried the running and audiobook listening to your book, and it was far too practical to, well, it was good
Right.
to skim over it. And then I was like, I've got to get the paperback now.
I was training for a marathon years ago, and I found that there were 2 types of books that I like to listen to when I was training. One were the books that were like, oh, those are good ideas. That's interesting. Like it was thought provoking. And then any of the ones that are like mine, where I'm like, oh, I have to do that. It was driving me crazy because I had to stop every 100 yards to like send myself a note on my phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the worst book ever to read while you're running.
Yeah.
Is
I
you want
know.
to
I
take
know
the
the
notes.
feeling. Yeah. Like, I'll just show you on the screen because it's quite funny. Like every book that I read, I've got the clips, and there was one.
Right.
I think it was your book. Like every 5 to 10 minutes, there was a clip, and it's a fairly long book. So you imagine trying to run and do that.
I had a CEO in California sent me a video of my book Meetings Suck, and he flagged, you know, the little flagging things you can put like a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
stick.
these things, yeah.
He had, so he had those. He flagged every idea that he read in the book Meetings Suck. It's 200 pages. He had 86 flags. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm
Yeah,
like, dude, I'm sorry. It's just the way I write.
yeah.
He's
Yeah,
like,
it's
no,
like the whole, like, you might as well get a highlighter and just highlight the whole book.
that's the only way I know how to teach,
Yeah,
right? Is because entrepreneurs want the cheat sheets. They want the
yeah, yeah,
shortcuts. So all of my books, I just give that to you.
yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, it stood out, and that's why we're on here today, because um, I like to I like to bring the best to my audience, and it was one of the better business books out of all the ones I went through.
It's actually why I'm really excited. My course is called Invest in Your Leaders, and my course is launching in February, end of February this year, and I'm excited about it because it's a bunch of content that's never been given to managers and leaders of companies that they really need to be effective in their jobs. But I simplified each of the modules so that they're only like 15 or 20 minutes of watching to really get all the value that you need.
Right. Yeah. Okay. There was a couple other questions that came in. Let me just bring that. So a question from Ed Markle. He asked the question in Ben's Business Book Club, and he says he was asking, what are some of your own success habits?
Some of my own success habits. I look for efficiencies in things. So I look for the easier, faster ways to do things. I realize that perfect doesn't scale, that momentum creates momentum. So for me, it's all about rolling it out quickly. So people talk about minimum viable product. I call it minimum viable everything. That just get it done and get it out the door, because momentum will create more momentum, and then you
Yeah.
can scale it from there. I call it R&D, that I rip off and duplicate. As a success habit, why would I sit and figure something out when people have figured it out already? I'll just trying to find out who the smart people are and do what they're doing. So
Okay.
right now, instead of me trying to come up with a landing page, I'll just find some good landing page ideas, and I'll just, do a mock-up off those, and that'll get us most of the way there.
Yeah.
Um, who, not how. I'm actually friends with the two authors of that book, Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy. You don't have to know how to do something, you have to know who can do it.
Yeah.
30 years ago, you had to be the smartest person in the room, because you didn't have access to the internet to go find the information. So you had to be the smart person, you had to be the one to know everything. Now you just have to know who the smart people are, and you have to know how to connect with them.
Yeah.
So, one of my big success habits is probably investing in mastermind groups, being a part of Genius Network and Maverick and Baby Bathwater and War Room and Strategic Coach, like where I've gone for years. I've gone to the main TED conference for 9 years, the 5-day TED conference. So when you surround yourself with all these smart people, that's a huge success habit, is investing in myself.
Yeah. Okay.
The last one, the other one I think would be to give myself a break. And I talked about this in the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. This morning's one of them. I didn't have a miracle morning this morning.
Yeah.
I'm just back from vacation. I'm a little tired. I'm dealing with one of my kids is really struggling with some stuff right now, so I'm a little overwhelmed with that. I have not done my exercise this morning. I haven't done my scribing this morning. I haven't done my visualizations. Like, I'm pretty much just, I woke up and showered and shaved and had my coffee. That's not exactly a miracle morning. But I'm not going to beat myself up about it and say, "Oh, you're a shitty person," or whatever. I'm like, no, I'll try to have a better day, and then I'll have a good morning tomorrow.
Yeah.
So giving myself a break, I think, is a success habit too.
Yeah. And you've got the whole day ahead of you, so you can get out for a run, or if you can fit that in.
Well, I think it's about giving yourself a break.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I get the point. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to comfort you. Or,
yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, no, I can't go for a run for two reasons. The first one is I had to get my hip replaced in March. So
All
I'm
right.
no longer a runner. I got my marathon done. I'm no longer a runner. So I can
Right.
go
Okay.
for walks and I can hike and I can bike.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
second one is I'm in a 14-day quarantine because I just flew back to Canada from the
I
US.
see.
So I'm not allowed to leave my house. So
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. That I agree. And
but
it
I'll
sounds
get
like
some
you're good at that.
I will get some exercise though.
Yeah. It sounds like you're good at letting yourself off the hook. The fact that you're taking 3 weeks off and you've probably got more things to do, or maybe not because you're more organized than some entrepreneurs, but you've got a lot on your plate, let's say, and you're able to delegate that effectively and take time off without feeling guilt.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something I need to learn is the taking breaks. And like we just discussed, organizing the delegation of my tasks.
And I think it's good when we do that for ourselves, right? When we give ourselves that break, it can really be a big help for us.
Yeah, yeah. I had the first week off in a good while at Christmas there, and definitely I came back a lot more refreshed.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I recommend it. His other question was your biggest mistakes you've made along the way. The biggest.
I would say one of the biggest ones is not listening to the really, really smart people that we hired. So, one example of that was we had a very, very sharp second in command, or not second in command, but head of finance. And the head of finance kept telling us to slow down, be careful with our spending, feels like we're going too quickly. And Brian and I were both like, no, no, we got this. No, no, we got this. Well, the reality is we didn't got it. We grew too fast. We hired too many people too quickly. We went into too many new areas and countries too fast. We spent money that we shouldn't have spent because we didn't understand how to leverage our balance sheet. And because we were such big drivers, we were go, 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 that really freaked out the rest of our company. And my lesson was that if you're going to have people that you hire, your job is to listen to them. And if you're not willing to listen to them, then hire people that you will listen to. But we almost lost the company because we weren't listening to our head of finance.
Yeah. And that brings me on to back to a question I asked, and maybe I asked too many questions and threw them all at you at once. About hiring, what do you believe in, like how much you should spend on someone, like in terms of talent, the best talent and break the bank, or medium, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you need to have the best talent for the projects that you need done for the budget that you have to work within. Because you could go hire the chief marketing officer from Apple for $2.5 million a year, but if you only need someone to run a $3,000 a month Facebook campaign, that's overkill.
Yeah.
So you have to think about what needs to get done. What's the proper title for the person doing those jobs? Don't give them a title that's too big, right?
Okay.
Your head of marketing could be a marketing manager, a director of marketing, a VP of marketing, or a chief marketing officer. Your head of finance could be a controller or a director of finance or a VP of finance or a CFO. So be careful with the titles you give, because the bigger the title, the more money the person wants to make.
Right.
And then the next part is, do you really need them full time? Right? Or do you just need 5 hours a month or 10 hours a month?
Yeah.
You know, I had somebody years ago say, oh, you need to hire a bookkeeper. I'm like, no, I have a bookkeeper and she's about 10 hours a month.
Right.
Why would I need a full-time bookkeeper? What would I get her to do?
Yeah.
I'd end up, you know, so I think people often do that with every role. They hire a marketing manager. Well, you don't need a full-time marketing manager. You need somebody who can look at your marketing for you 1 hour a week and can manage some stuff, and pay them $1,000 a month instead of $8,000 a month.
Yeah. So instead of even hiring or employing on payroll, you could just as in bring them in your team, but from an external company.
Yeah, so like as an example, we have our weekly leadership team meeting for my company, and what I've outsourced my social media management, a lot of it. And Mandy, who runs the social media company that I outsource to, she comes to my weekly meeting. right? I have an IT guy that I outsource stuff to. He comes to my weekly meeting. So they sit at my weekly team meeting so they know what's happening with the rest of the company. And then they go back and they do their work for their other clients as well.
Right.
So I pay them for that hour to be there, but it keeps
Yeah.
them on the same page. It keeps them feeling close
Right.
to me.
So they, yeah, you include them into your meeting, your actual staff.
Right.
Yeah.
So as an example, Mandy, who does work for 10 clients, feels much, she almost feels like she works for me versus,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's happened with I have a guy who helps me with video editing, and the price that I spend is basically half, maybe 20 hours a week now. So it's almost like slowly developing into maybe full-time employment.
You got it.
So it's I don't know, have you done it that way where you've used someone's services so much that you've hired them?
Yeah, I've got my a guy who works with me on my website and my podcast started working for me in a fractional capacity,
Yeah.
and then he became full time.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just worked his way into, now he's like 50 hours a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And are they on the payroll? Do you bring them in? What's more beneficial?
I pay him as I pay all of my employees as independent contractors. So yeah.
Okay. As contractors.
Yeah.
Okay. And why is there a reason? Any reason why?
It's easier for me. It's legal. There's some benefits for them as well, where they get to write off some expenses against their income.
Okay.
Yeah, I hire entrepreneurial people, so it just works for them. Now
Right.
I also pay them 5 weeks paid vacation every year, so they bill me for 25 days throughout the whole year that they don't even have to go to work. So I even pay them for their vacation as a contractor.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but it's just easier. So I just get an invoice from them every 2 weeks, and we pay them.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's very helpful for me, actually, because that's a block where I wasn't sure if I'm doing the right thing the way that I have my video editor and my web developer, or if I should have them internally and they feel more connected to the company and the vision.
No, I think as long as you treat them with the respect and you align them with your vision and you get them involved in decision making, they feel very connected
Yeah.
to that anyway.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's really helpful. I have a bunch of questions, but I think we've covered a lot here.
It's been great.
Yeah. So one final question is about 1-800 got junk. You took it from 14 to
3,000.
3,000 employees. What would you say was the main driver behind all of that, or if there was a couple that you could pinpoint that to, like what did you do to help it grow?
We obsessed about, I said to Brian when I first got there that we needed to turn the company into a cult, and the culture, right?
Yeah.
And it had to be slightly more than a business, a little bit less than a religion. It had to be in that zone of a cult.
Mhm.
And so that's what we did. And so we codified things, we hired high energy people, we celebrated lots, we had company cheers. We just created we got lots of media exposure, so everybody felt good about stuff.
Okay.
We shared in the success. We just created that cult-like environment.
Yeah.
And I've done that multiple times now with multiple countries.
Yeah.
I coached two of the #1 companies to work for in Australia, the #1 company in Cincinnati, the current #2 company to work for in the US on Glassdoor. Like over and over, we ranked as the #2 company in Canada to work for.
Yeah.
So you can codify that. You can actually turn a company into a magnet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay, that's promising, because I do believe I've been starting to create a bit of a culture in my own smaller, humble or businesses. But yeah, it's good to see that culture kind of come out, and when you create a culture, you can be a wee bit, you end up being automatically more selective about who you bring in, and because of that energy that you want to create.
When you can be more selective because you have more people applying to work for you as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll leave it there. I will make sure everyone knows how to find you. Could you share some of the ways that people can find you?
Yeah, sure. All 5 of my books are available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. My main website, CameronHerold.com, would be the core one that people should go to and check out. And then they also should all subscribe to the Second in Command podcast and check that out, because they'll get some really good ideas from some of the best COOs on the world who are building companies that you've all heard of as well. And don't feel bad. Nobody ever gets to ask me all the questions because there's just too much content there. So
yeah.
we can
There's
do
probably questions on Facebook Live right now that I can't even see because we're on Zoom. But if they come in, we'll maybe have a second interview if we need to.
Sounds good. Yeah, take a look at the book Meetings Suck and Free PR. Maybe we can do another talk on those too.
Yeah, that would be good. I'm on to, so I've just stopped the recording there. I'm on to Vivid Vision at the moment. So I'll,
Nice.
like you said, I'm in that mindset of slowing down on the amount of reading and being more selective about what is just in time for what I'm doing right now. My focus, yeah.
Yeah. Good job, man. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, bud. Take care, man. Thank
Cheers.
you.
See you later.
Bye.